Hey guys, how's it going? I did a video last year on my bucket potatoes, just showing you the amazing results I had with potatoes in buckets. Now, even though I've got all this ground here to grow potatoes in, and I will be growing potatoes in 4, 5, maybe 6 beds this year, the thing I loved about the potatoes in the buckets, there was very little or no damage from wireworms and from slugs. This ground is infested with wireworms, guys. It's the horrible little things, because they chew holes in your potatoes, and the potatoes are really unsightly. You end up cutting so much of the potato away to get rid of all the tunnels that they put through the spuds. So anyway, 8th of December today, and I was thinking last night, I'm literally a month away from putting some first earlies in buckets. So in January, in a week or two into January, I'll be putting some first early potatoes in buckets in the polytunnel, and that'll be the first crop, and I'll probably do 6, 7 buckets, something like that, of first earlies, maybe 6, and them 6 buckets, when they are ready, they'll probably tide us over until the first earlies that are in the ground start coming up, and then the second earlies and the lates, and etc, etc. So I don't sort of grow too many first earlies for myself, because they don't store well. They store okay, but the taste isn't great. They are much nicer harvested out of the ground and eaten. They're beautiful. 2 to 3 months in, they're not at the best. They're just potato, you know. But yeah, so we're pretty close. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show you the compost I used in those buckets, because it's absolutely brilliant crop of spuds from every single bucket, and what I'm using is wood chip. And I'll just share with you now, guys, a little quick video I took at home of 2 jazzy potatoes in a bucket full of wood chip with the addition of a handful of fish blood and bone. I was really surprised to get them from 2 spuds. So this wood chip here has been down on these paths about 12 months now, and all I'm doing is I'm raking off this top layer, which hasn't quite decomposed, because the layers further down will be more composed. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. The one reason is obviously to use it as compost for my potatoes, and the other reason is so I can redress the beds with wood chip, because obviously the wood chip, it turns virtually into soil after I've found 2 years it's soil. But what a great cheap resource for a growing medium. There was Storm Darry yesterday. I don't know if you saw my video, but they had dropped some wood chip in the bay. Someone had been. It was mostly conifer. So coniferous branches, which isn't the best for paths, because it breaks down really, really quickly. So I'm not going to do the whole plot, but this little section of the plot here, I don't mind just doing this little bit with that conifer and just getting enough compost off here for my first early potatoes. And when they bring some better chip, what I will do is I will rake some of the other paths off and put the better chip on them. You know, more of a woody chip, because it's just better for the paths, because it breaks down a little bit slower the woodier it is, and you know, the paths aren't growing weeds if you've got unrotted wood chip in. So because these paths here are virtually turning to soil, they're going to start growing weeds, guys, believe it or not. Or weed seed's going to get in there and start germinating. So I'm going to rake it down about 4 to 5 inches deep, and I'll show you what I do next. I want about a barrow full of this chip, and that'll do my buckets. The buckets I need for the first earlies anyway. So it doesn't look like I'll have to go too far on these paths actually. I'll just get this corner done. I am going to add a couple of other ingredients to this, because potatoes are hungry feeders. Now as I've raked off that top, I can see that it's pretty much good underneath. I'll just keep going with the spade. Don't worry about the conifer making the soil acidic or anything. It doesn't. Nature deals with it. Nature will take care with it. The soil life will take care of it. It will neutralise it, turn it into plant food. Now this chip here that you can see isn't really broken down because it's from the stuff from the surface. I'm going to rake this back down into the bottom of the path now, and then I'll put the new chip on top of that. Show you the next step, getting this lovely potato food. So I made up this sieve. It's just 4 pieces of wood with some, it's about an inch, the weld mesh, about an inch mesh. I made that up simply for sieving wood chip, because since the early days when I used to just dump all of the chip on the ground, I now sieve the chip to get the big pieces out of it. The reason I don't like the big pieces of chip in the paths is because slugs can sort of get underneath it. They like that habitat and they lay eggs underneath it. I've found that. So I don't want big pieces of chip in the paths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through the sieve now. There's a lot of little worms in this I'm seeing already. The thing is with putting wood chip on your paths, the worms and the other soil life, even though they're breaking down the wood chip, they also pull soil into the wood chip through the tunnels, you know, because soil life is constantly moving the soil around, and they'll drag soil into the wood chip. Also, basically, you're going to get soil just getting into your wood chip off the sides of the beds. Little bits of stone there. Oh, it's old brick, that. But you can see everything has gone through that 1 inch sieve there, and that is absolutely fine for potatoes, that. Well, when I set the allotment up, I had 4-foot beds and 2-foot paths with weed membrane under the paths. Last year I took the weed membrane up so that the wood chip was in contact with the soil, and then the soil life could use the nutrients in the path to fertilise the ground and the sides of the beds. So as a consequence, the beds are a little bit wider, the paths are narrower. I don't mind walking on the beds. Right, the first additive I'm going to put in is this, guys. And this is 12-month-old horse manure. You can see the state that it's broken down to. It's absolutely beautiful, this. I didn't have this last year, so I couldn't put it into the buckets. I think I did put maybe a shovelful of just ordinary allotment soil in with each bag of wood chip, because the wood chip last year wasn't quite as nice as this year's wood chip. I don't think this is strictly necessary. With the chip I've got, I'd probably be fine with, say, a handful of fish blood and bone, half handful of chicken manure pellets, something like that, added to the wood chip. That'd be fine. But because I've got this, I'm going to add it to the wood chip because it can only benefit. I'm going to put 1 spade per bucket, so I just want 4 spades of this. This is the next day, guys, because I had sound problems yesterday. My little DJI mics just kept turning themselves off. I think it was because it was so cold. It was bitterly cold yesterday. I've just set us up at the back of the allotment here to do this mixture. These are the buckets I grew in last year. They are 30 litre buckets. I did have a couple that were about 35 litres. I thought they were probably a bit better really, because they weren't as high, but they were a little bit wider. But anyway, I've got a lot of these, so that's what I'm going to use. So I want 3 shovelfuls of our lovely leaf mould. And then I want a shovel full of our horse manure. And that's probably a bucket full there. Obviously if I was mixing for 4 buckets, I'd multiply that by, 4. So I'd have 4 shovels of horse manure, 3 and 3 is 12 of wood chip. Right guys, my next ingredient is this. It's volcanic rock dust. Volcanic rock dust. And this will add any minerals that are missing from this compost and wood chip that the plants need. So I'm just going to put a handful of that in here. Make sure it's well spread through the pile. That should be enough there. Incidentally, I would still use that rock dust if I was putting fish blood and bone in. Definitely. It's amazing stuff. A bag of that in the UK is probably around £20 delivered. I can't find it locally. And I've used that bag on the allotment. I've put about 3 or 4 handfuls on every bed. I'd like to put more on. Ideally I'd like, say, 5 or 6 kilos on every single bed, but you know, it is expensive. But I do a dressing of it every year, and because it's rock dust, it kind of stays in the soil. So you know, it's not like you need to apply it every single year. Once it's in the soil, it's in the soil, and that's it. It's staying there. And the microbiome, the bacteria can use that mineral, break it down and give it to the plants. So next job, bucket. And you know guys, I meant to bring some first early potatoes with me to show you how I do them. So in their place I am going to use beetroot. I am not planting beetroot here. These are just, for example, this is where I would put the first early potatoes. So with that 2 shovelful, I'd put one there and one there opposite the handles, so I know whereabouts they are. Now if I was just doing my second earlies or my main crop potatoes, I would simply put 2 in the bucket after 4 shovelfuls of compost. So I would put 2 in there if they were second earlies or main crops, and that's all I would put in. But first earlies, you can get 4 potatoes in the bucket because first earlies don't tend to push the potatoes up. I think it's sort of around the roots. So that's another shovelful for the first earlies, and I'm going to be a shovel short here guys. And the next 2, I will put them there across from the other 2, so I'll have 2 growing up here. I will have 2 growing up there, and then I will top off this bucket with the compost. Like I say guys, I should have mixed maybe 1 more shovelful. So that's going to be my fill level when the first earlies are in. Just a nice heaped mound like that. This will sink down, I expect, by about 3 inches it'll settle down. And then I will simply just add another shovelful of compost on top. What regards with watering, January, February, I won't need to water. Look at this stuff. It's absolutely beautiful. Plenty of moisture in it. No matter how much you squeeze it, you can't get water out of it. So that will come out. Retrieve them little beetroots. Yeah, the reason I'm doing this now, as I've probably already mentioned a couple of reasons in the comments, but it's mainly to get the new wood chip on the path to stop the weed growing in the old chip, which is beautiful and ready for weed seed blowing in and growing. Also, I want to get the bacterial and fungal network established in this compost, because adding that little bit of horse manure will bring another range of bacteria into the wood chip stuff. So them two mixed together, beautiful bacteria can thrive in that and help our potatoes grow. So all I need to do now is 6 buckets. I'm going to do 6 buckets of first earlies, and then come February I'll be doing the same thing again and putting my Lenoma potatoes in, which are amazing spuds, they really are. And that's it for this one, guys. Get yourself some of that volcanic rock dust, absolutely fantastic stuff. I am going to order another bag of this quite soon. I hold it in high regard. My next video coming up, I'm going to show you how to tackle persistent perennial weeds, how to get on top of them in as many as a few months. Doesn't matter how bad the situation is with them, you can get rid of them completely and good forever without using nasty chemical sprays to try and kill them, which generally doesn't work anyway. And this is a prelude to the video I'm doing on how I tamed the wilderness that was this allotment in as just under 12 months. I had time to do it. I know a lot of people haven't got time, but I'm doing a compilation video from right at the start of when I first walked onto the site to approximately and roughly where I'd finished the site, and it was within about 12 months. So anybody taking on a new plot in the next month or so might want to just tune into that and just see, because hopefully it'll give you some great ideas of how to go forward managing allotments and not spend every spare minute you've got pulling weeds up, digging ground, and for no reason. There is no reason to dig your soil, guys, and I've got a video coming up that will show you why there is no good reason to dig soil. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. I'll put this in the bucket.